Hello, and welcome to another YouTube video. It is me, LlyfrAnnoddach. You can call me Lemon or Hyr, whichever one you prefer. And today I am drawing Jacinthe from Pokémon Legends ZA. I've heard lots of people with different pronunciations of a name. I've heard Jacinthe, I've heard Jacinthe, like with the TH is a bit more of an S sound. I will be saying Jacinthe. I am not French, I will be saying Jacinthe. And for this drawing I wanted to have a bit more of a perspective foreshadowing sort of look, so the sketching process you will see me tamper with a lot today. I sort of wanted it to sort of look like the camera was looking down on her, but because I am a fool made of hubris, I did not look up much reference for it. I sort of eyeballed a lot of it, and again you can see me use the liquify tool a lot. Here I'm just sort of refining the sketch. Usually I would only do sort of like one sketch layer, but because this drawing was a bit more complex with more like complex perspective, I decided to do another sketch layer on top of the initial sketch before then also moving on to line art. So there's 3 sort of refinement stages in this. So and with the details in her outfit, you know, she has a lot of frills. I just wanted to sort of like make sure I got all these details good in the sketch before I move on to line art. I think that Jacinthe is such a pretty character, and to be honest I'm so glad we got to get her dress as a customization option in Legends ZA, the DLC. So now we can dress like Jacinthe, which is so pretty. She's just so she really does embody fairy type trainer. Gorgeous. If I'm completely honest, I was sort of expecting to struggle with Jacinthe's hair a bit more than I was, just because it's such a odd shape, and a lot of the references, they're not very consistent. Like her 3D model and her 2D render, they do not look the same. But you know, I think it was one of the easier hairstyles I've ever done, like considering it's anime hair. I'm kind of dreading like drawing Laban, because I think her hair would be a lot more difficult. Funnily enough. It's something I actually recommend if you do, like when you draw ornaments and stuff for shapes that are a bit hard to like line. What I recommend you do is do the shape itself in a bright colour first, right? Just get the shape down, and then after that what you can do is you can set that shape into white, add a black border, merge it down, and then if you press convert brightness to opacity, it'll turn the white into like clear, right? And it makes lining that shape really easy, especially for something as like weirdly complex as her little like hair brooch thingy that she has. It's just something I recommend you do. It's quite easy. It's something I've always done. Here's something that was a little bit difficult to do because I do 2D illustration, and a lot of the references for Jacinthe are 3D renders. It's really hard to turn the 3D render into a line. You can see when I was doing the brooch, I wanted to like hatch some of the shading because that's what it is on the 3D render, but I decided not to because it didn't really work with my style. So it's a lot of like ebb and flow and trying to figure it out, especially with something as stylized as Pokemon. I just love drawing Pokemon and Pokemon characters, but like it is certainly a challenge trying to stylize it while also keeping the Pokemon-ness of it, but also your own take. It's a whole thing. It's a headache. actually do with line art is I use a very, very textured brush, but with not a lot of pressure opacity. And what I instead do to create this like thickness is go over the shape again and again and again, right? And it doesn't matter if it's got these like white spots. I personally like how it looks. So you can see in this little like quick time lapse, that's how I do it. I've had quite a lot of like comments from friends and stuff asking about my lining work, so that's kind of how I do it. It's all like manually added pressure sensitivity. I don't have a pressure brush. And you also can see when I do sketches, there's a little bit of pressure in my sketch brush, but not a lot. I think it just sort of like forces me to put a lot of the detail in the line art intentionally. It like forces my brain into doing it intentionally, and I quite like that. Something I needed to keep in mind when like lining her legs was that they were going to be foreshortened, probably more than the rest of her, because legs are like one thin like shape. If you look at them from a shape perspective, they're a lot more complex than that in reality. So they were the easiest thing to sort of like push that they are done through perspective, right? So I had to you can see I had to redraw the shin a lot of times, but also with shading, I added a lot of shading to her legs, right, to give the impression that they're further away from the camera. So that's just how I do it. I am no expert at perspective. I barely know what I'm doing. So here I'm moving on to the flat colour aspect of the drawing. So I lay out all my colours first and then shade once I know all the colours, because they affect each other and whatnot. Something, again, I did not expect to run into this obstacle while drawing Pokemon characters is the fact that 3D renders do not give you a very good like eyedropper perspective. Like you can't just eyedrop a 3D render. I mean you can, but a 3D render is a lot more affected by lighting, but her 2D render I find is really desaturated. Like I didn't really want to use the 2D render as color reference because it was just so desaturated. Like it looks good, I'm not saying that, but like compared to the game, she's so saturated, and like I prefer how saturated she is in the game. So it was a weird balance trying to find trying to eyedrop at all the like colors from the 3D render while also not trying to use the 2D render. Oh, it was a whole thing, but I think I got it quite good. Obviously with a character who is black, you want to make sure that their skin tone is accurate, but again, the 2D render, it's very desaturated, so I didn't want to use that like ashy brown, and I wanted to use that like deep, almost like purple colour that she has in the 3D render, and I think it turned out quite well. Just sort of going through and adding all the little details on her clothes. She's got so many like little buttons and brooches, and oh, she's so cute. Oh, I see why Laban likes her a lot. I think Jacinthe is one of the fan favourites of this game for sure. Her and Laban and Kobo. Oh my god, I see them a lot on Twitter. Something I try to keep in mind when I'm doing little details from characters is to keep them sort of consistent. But this isn't a hard and fast rule, but it helps sort of unify the character when the little like her brooch, for example, or the feathers, or like the ribbons, if they're all generally the same colour, or they use colours from elsewhere in the design, because then you've not got like a million colours to try and shade, you're just shading a set amount, right? And it also helps, in my opinion, like unify the outfit a bit more and doesn't make the little details stand out too much, if that makes sense. just going in and shading. The shading is probably where I think most of the saturation of her design in this illustration comes from. I know I went on about the saturation earlier, but the colours that I've chosen are actually a bit drab, but what I wanted to do was really push the saturation in the shading, as opposed to making the base colours like really bright. Instead use like really bright shading and like these overlay layers and the add layers, etc. I just think it looks good. That's just my opinion. So I think I've discussed this before, but I'll discuss it again. What I generally do with like light clothes or white clothes is I do a first layer in orange, and then I'll select that layer and do another layer in blue, like a dark purple, right? Either I'll make the layer smaller or I'll go over it again manually, whichever one's easier, and turn it on to multiply. It gives this like slight subsurface scattering effect, which you generally do find in light clothes, that I personally quite like. I think it's really cute. I think it works, especially for this like light lilac. I think it really works here. Here I'm just finishing up the background, adding a few details, etc. Generally I find if you make the background also force the perspective, like I've done with that like rectangle in the background, that can also help like force the eye into looking at it from perspective. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you all enjoyed. Like, comment and subscribe. Thank you, bye.